People go into being self-employed thinking, yeah, it's going to be great. And then they go, actually, hang on.
Well, also, I think there's all the hidden costs of running a company. So when you're just paid a salary, you assume that if you put in the same amount of time and earn the same amount of money, you'd just be earning more. But obviously, it's pensions kit. You know, business is very expensive, and also you're only getting your profit. And so, yeah, you might say you earn, I don't know, 10 grand for the sake of the conversation, and then you started a business and you earned 10 grand, only like 2 of that might actually be profit.
Yeah, you aren't actually earning, you ain't taking it home. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Flex Appeal podcast, one day the #1 fitness podcast in the world. My name is Ryan, and today we're diving more into business than fitness, which is really exciting. We are a fitness, business and mindset / lifestyle podcast. Today I've got a very exciting host, Alice.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So welcome in. Introduce yourself to the millions of listeners.
Oh my goodness.
Who are going to be out there one day.
Well, first of all, I've dressed in sportswear for you, Ryan.
I know, because I'd have looked like a right slob if you came in business wear.
Usually, the last time I came here, which is the only other time I've been at your fabulous new gym, was your opening party, and I walked in and I felt so overdressed.
You looked very good.
Everybody was in trainers and joggers, and I remember being like, I think I was in a blazer for some reason.
Yeah, but you look like you're going to go hunting.
Yeah, I actually would never. Thank you very much.
Or go to the races.
Only a clay pigeon.
Clay pigeon shooting. I love a bit of clay pigeon.
But anyway, dressed down today, but I am Alice Violet. I own a marketing agency in Cheltenham. We specialise primarily in complex brands, which is those in tech, cybersecurity, but also highly regulated industries. So fintech, agri-tech, industries that have a lot of compliance. And we also, because we're based in Cheltenham, there's a lot of intelligence companies here. We work with companies that, you know, we need to sign NDAs for and do a lot of kind of specialist work for, I would say.
Interesting. So you're a marketing agency that works with companies that maybe can't market in a standard way?
Yeah, they will market in an untraditional way. So Jack, who sat behind the camera with us today, we've done some filming with clients that we are really proud of, and we can't share it because sometimes it's because they are a government funded startup and the technology that they're building, they need to get an investor for, or they're just selling it back to government. But the technology that they're talking about can't be publicized yet, especially if it hasn't yet been like intellectual property rights.
God, that's so interesting.
Which is interesting.
Wow.
Also, it could be because you don't want other nations to know about what they're making. So yeah, there's been a lot of content that we've created that we haven't been able to share. But also there's a lot that we can share. So the work that we've done with likes of Cynam, we absolutely adore, means Cyber Gloucestershire, stands for Cyber Cheltenham. The work that we do with them is mostly stuff that we can be really public about. So
digital marketing was a passion that turned into a business, or you just decided, do you know what? I love the idea of cybersecurity and I want to market it. How did you get to where you are now? So that's because that is pretty bloody niche, isn't it? Would you say it's pretty niche?
It is niche.
So, because, you know, you look at all these digital marketing people and social media managers and they work with, you know, Nike and other brands and stuff like that. So that is really niche.
Yeah.
So what got you to where you are now? In terms of who you work with, not even as a business person, but like, why did you choose cyber?
So my background was actually in luxury marketing. So I worked for 2 of the biggest luxury travel companies.
Exciting.
Abercrombie & Kent and Audley Travel. Went to some amazing places, was sent to Kenya, India, the US on like really luxurious trips. And because I'd gone from one competitor to another, I had a clause in my contract that meant I couldn't go to a third one. So I actually was approached by Sophos, which is a cybersecurity giant, and got the job. And it kind of, I fell in love with cybersecurity, which sounds bizarre, but having worked in such an aesthetic, beautiful, visual industry, going from that to cybersecurity was wildly different. But my team at Sophos were massively funny people. They taught me so much. I was like a sponge. I love learning anyway. And it made me realize that if someone like me, who's so visual and creative, can like cybersecurity, then anybody can. It's just being presented incorrectly. So Sophos has amazing marketing anyway. It's all about making it simple, accessible. And the people around me really taught me how to take really complex topics and make them accessible. But also it's an exciting industry. Things like social engineering. There's so many like open source intelligence. These sorts of things I think are interesting to anybody. It's just when you put them under the banner of something that sounds dry, maybe people don't I don't know, pay attention to them. But for me personally, I think it's a really exciting and interesting industry. So yeah, when I launched my own business, I had to decide, do I niche in luxury travel or luxury lifestyle or cybersecurity? And I think because of where the world was at the time, it pushed me into cyber. Cyber was still emerging very much. I think it's come a long way in the last 5 years. But at that point, it was still, people didn't even know what cybersecurity meant. And also because of the pandemic, the travel industry was fucked.
Yeah. It did do that.
That a lot of hotels were going bust. A lot of tour operators were kind of having to make a lot of their teams redundant. There wasn't money in that industry to be investing, whereas cybersecurity was the complete opposite.
So when did you start Alice Violet Creative? When was that an actual thing?
January 2021, so 5 years ago.
Gosh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And that is almost like right at the end of the last lockdown, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, and you just decided, what made you want to go from working for someone to working for yourself? What was the kind of flick in the switch?
So I think for a while I'd been doing freelance work on the side anyway. So while I was employed, I've always been somebody who probably can't sit still. And so I was always doing like photography on the side or video on the side or training. I did a lot of training for like people I'd worked with, especially after the pandemic, when a lot of people moved companies or were made redundant. A lot of those people then hired me to do stuff. So even when I was working full time, I was still going out in an evening and freelancing. So it got to the point, to be brutally honest, that I was getting taxed really high. Because I had a day job, it actually was no longer financially worthwhile having the day job because of the amount of tax it pushed me up into paying. Whereas if I set up a limited company and had no personal income and it all sat in the business and I just paid myself an amount, it just made more sense tax-wise. And I learned that the hard way. I had 1 year of paying a disgusting amount of tax. And then it became clear that actually the day job isn't really needed. And I think that was a good point to do it, because if I'd just gone straight out the gate with no clients, that's obviously terrifying. Whereas I already had people I was working with, I already had reviews and I've been freelance, I knew how it worked. I was just getting rid of the day job basically.
So you'd built up to the point of you don't need the 9 to 5 anymore. That's exciting, because a lot of people, there's two camps I think you fall in, at least in the fitness industry, which is the only way I can talk about, is that people will start becoming self-employed and they will have a job along the side. So they'll go self-employed and they'll work at a shop or retail or something like that part-time to just get a little bit of extra money in. Or like I did, they just go 100% all in and hope for the best. So it's quite interesting.
But you were also kind of self-employed. You say you went all in and hope for the best, but you have been a PT.
Oh yeah. So when I started off as a PT, the first day I started off, they were like, this is a self-employed job. So you work for yourself the entire time. When I was like, okay, cool, interesting. Could have got a second job, probably should have got a second job. But it's interesting to take the perspective of someone who worked 9 to 5 and on the side of that 9 to 5 built up a successful business, a massively successful business.
Thank you.
Because you've gone from being, working for yourself on your own to now having a team of creative people. What do you think was the biggest struggle moving? Because when people go self-employed, long story short, a lot of people will go, I can stop working the 9 to 5 and I can pick my own hours and I can do whatever I want whenever I want and I don't have to work that much and I get to do all this work for more pay and less hours. But 9 times out of 10, and this is like what I found, is that it's more hours for less pay for a little bit of time. So people go into being self-employed thinking, it's going to be great. And then they go, actually, hang on.
Well, also, I think there's all the hidden costs of running a company. So when you're just paid a salary, you assume that if you put in the same amount of time and earn the same amount of money, you'd just be earning more. But obviously it's pensions kit. I can't even think of all the, like, Adobe is obviously expensive.
Gone up now as well.
Everything has gone up. So I think, business is very expensive and also you're only getting your profit. And so, you might say you earn, I don't know, 10 grand for the sake of the conversation. And then you started a business and you earned 10 grand. Only like 2 of that might actually be profit.
You aren't actually earning. You ain't taking it home.
No.
And I think people forget that when they go self-employed. A lot of people, when I first went self-employed as a videographer, photographer, I messed around so much because it was just before COVID as well. I was like, this is great. I don't want to work in retail. And I obviously went self-employed after my sister died because I was like, I don't want to work for someone else. and I messed around. And then when I became a PT, I was like, actually, hang on, this is a whole different ballgame, and I should have been doing it like this the whole time. So when you went from working solo to working for a team, what do you think changed? Like, what was the biggest change?
So when I launched my business, I was just me for probably 3 years. And it was a really successful 3 years, I would say, because my business is called AliceVioletCreative. I did have a good reputation. I worked for some big companies. A lot of the work that we did was recommendations. And also we had clients that as soon as I went full-time, hired me and then just stayed with us the whole time. So I was in a really advantageous position, and I think I almost felt too comfortable. So at that point, 2 years ago, I sat down with myself. So I would do like
had a board meeting.
I do. I have reviews with myself all the time.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. We'll touch on that in a second, actually.
Yeah, like what worked, what didn't work. But anyway, so I was like, what do I want out of this? I'm at a point where I basically have no more time. So if I want to scale and earn more, then I need to change the business model because there's physically not any more hours left in the day. So then I sort of looked at what the situation would be if I started hiring a team of people, and then their time would be what I sell versus mine. And I've got a gorgeous, sexy car that you always admire.
Yeah.
At that point, I got myself a gift because I was like, all the money I've earned is basically about to go into a team. So I need to treat myself to something before I change direction. And so then I looked at hiring, and it's a completely different ballgame. I don't think so. When I was employed, I was a director at an agency, and I had a team of 5 plus 7 2 that I loosely managed, so 7 people. But being a manager in a company for someone else versus being a line manager for your own business is a wildly different thing.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
because I think when you're in a big company, you can blame someone else for being the big bad wolf, and you can say, "Oh, I can't do that because blame the person above me." When you're just saying no because I don't want to do that, it's much harder. Or if it's because, if someone's done something wrong, I've had a few issues where I've had to let staff go.
Yeah, okay.
Which is like the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And having to sit down, and there's no one I can blame. I can't say, HR's here and they're just going to have a conversation with you. I have to just say, you did this and I'm not happy with it. And I think, that was really, really challenging. And also as a creative person who works all the time because I love it.
Yep.
Working 9 to 5 doesn't really suit me. So when I have a team and I need to be in at 9 and sit there till 5 because that's what's expected of them, because obviously I can't expect them to work all the time. I just would never.
Yeah.
That's a really different thing and a difficult thing, because sometimes I might not get up until 10.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm working till 1.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a different mindset. And I think, that can be really hard. And actually, when I worked at Sophos, the tech company, I could be like that there because everybody there was probably quite neurodivergent. It was a very unusual team. And so if I did roll in at 11 a.m., they knew that I was working till 1 a.m. So they didn't care. And it was more about if you get your work done. So actually I learned a lot from my manager at Sophos in terms of how to be a better manager. I'm still learning all the time. I don't think I'm perfect.
Never stop learning.
I think, just understanding people's differences. And for me personally, 9 to 5 and just sitting at a desk all day is quite difficult.
Yeah. I could never go and work in an office. I worked in an office for 3 months and it was the worst experience of my life.
I do like an office because I like to dress smartly, as you know, and I like an excuse to do my makeup, get dressed, go out, be in public. I'm also super social. So being on my own is not good. But I think getting up at 8 and walking to work and being there at 9 and leaving at 5, that sort of structured lifestyle isn't really suited.
Don't suit the routine, kind of that absolute militant, you need to be here at this time. See, I go from I love when I go away with cadets, I love it because I know I've got to be up at 6:30, breakfast is at 7, and then we're training from 8. I know that. But when I'm here, and I've actually started going to co-working spaces and coffee shops.
They are great.
Because and actually what I was doing yesterday, I put a little bit of coffee shop ambiance on my YouTube and I'll listen and I'll pretend I'm in a coffee shop over listening to some conversations because I just can't work on my own. I just can't do it. I got this place and I can't sit up here and work on my own because I'm a social animal.
Well, also, I think that was the same with me. Now I've got a team, I probably can work better on my own because it's almost like a glimpse of time to myself. Whereas when I was a one-man band, I think it was harder. But also we've been, I don't know whether lucky's the word, but we've kind of organize the business around a lot of our clients being in the co-working space that we work in. So often we can literally go and sit with our clients. We have good friendships with our clients. We're always at events with the same. So I think it almost feels like they're an extension of our team versus that we're this little tiny agency. Quite often, they feel I'm quite close to some of my clients. We can have really candid conversations, and that feels less isolating as well.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, what do you think about having good relationships with people you work with then? Because some people are always like, well, keep a good distance, professional distance still, but I find that some of my clients, different story, but some of my clients become quite close friends almost.
Yeah.
So when you're working in a very close environment with them, how have you found that? Have you ever had to let a client go?
Oh God, yeah.
And all the time.
No, not all the time.
Yeah, no, I get you.
I think we've had some issues where as the business went from just being me to being a team, there was some clients who, I mean, my business is called AliceVioletCreative, and I'm always tussling with, is that a bad name? Because everyone assumes it's just me all the time. But then, I don't know, there's a whole conversation there. But we had some clients who really were against me not being their account manager or their direct person that would come to all their meetings and do everything, even writing their Instagram captions. You know, as I've grown and the business has grown, I had a team who could do that. And ultimately, in the end, I had to say, either you pay more if you want me to still be your person there, or we need to part ways. And I sort of would price them out because I ultimately wanted to part ways.
Because it's tough having those. Well, it's tough having those tough conversations.
Especially when you're turning money away. You're literally saying, something easy peasy like writing your Instagram caption. Yeah. You know, as a social media manager 10 years ago, probably, is something I can do with my eyes closed, but I don't want to because it stops me from doing the stuff that's going to bring the money into my company and having pitch calls and going to London and doing those things. I'm going to walk away from a decent chunk of money because it doesn't work with my longer term goals. It is hard. Yeah,
that is really difficult. I've had to have some difficult client conversations recently, and it is not fun when you are being not the bad guy. I don't want to say you're being the bad guy, but like you have to be. I'm a business person.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You can't mess. You know, you wouldn't do this with big companies. You're definitely not, but you would more likely do it with smaller companies, and people forget that you are a business person. You're not just a person.
Yeah.
Because do you think that you have struggled in a way that, obviously Alice Violet is your name.
Yes.
So it's a personal brand. It was a personal brand. You are your brand.
Yeah.
Right. But now it's not just you that's your brand.
Yeah.
Your brand is now big, not bigger than you. It's bigger than you.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm working on being a personal brand, and I am my brand.
Yeah.
How have you found that transition from you are the brand to now the brand is me plus others?
I think I learned a lot last year. I think I probably spent 2024 trying to pivot away from that and like hiring a team and trying to reposition myself and getting rid of some clients. And 2025, I was trying to be less hands-on and kind of giving more away to people. And now I think I've actually learned the hard way that ultimately people do want to hire me directly. And we're still getting we get a lot of things called fractional CMO, so chief marketing officer, who will lead people's team for like X hours a month. So they've got their own in-house team, will do the videography, the social media, the newsletter, and I just lead the ship. And I'm like, this is what I walked away from 2 years ago. But ultimately, if that's what the market wants, which it is, then that's what we need to deliver. We can't give services that aren't driving value. So I think I've learned the hard way that actually the personal branding was what made me stand out and what was my value. And I probably took that for granted. Yeah. And I'm actually leaning back straight into it now.
And because that's another thing. So when you go from being self-employed to then having a team, you are slightly, every so often, giving parts of your baby away, right? Because you are allowing someone else to roll with this vision. I'm really tough with Kai, one of my friends who's also worked with my videographer before. I struggle to let anybody do anything else. I'll say to him, right, you can shoot the video, but I'll edit it because I want to see how it works because this is my baby. I want to see what's going on. So when you're giving away that almost creative control, right, it's tough.
I mean, I don't know. Jack would probably have more to say on whether or not I'm bad at giving away creative control. Be honest, am I? Maybe I am. Yeah, that says it. But I would say with those things, the thing I struggle with more there is that I love videography and photography and podcasting, and I love editing. I really find it fun. Last night at midnight, I downloaded a load of stock and did a little AI voice, something Jack and I have been playing with, and just started making a video for no reason really.
Just because you love it.
I enjoy editing, and I was just thinking, I could change my website around and do this. And I think that's what I miss, is just being able to dedicate like 4 hours to being like, this new thing's come out. Let me just try and do it. Let me try and do some color correction. I think the fun, I am a marketer and we do quite a lot of strategic marketing, but I'm also a content creator. And I think I probably am a bit of a micromanager and a perfectionist, but
you've got to be a perfectionist. So it's your business, you want it to be perfect.
I enjoy doing the editing. So the harder thing for me is actually just giving it to someone to do end to end. Like with Cyber Made Human podcast, my podcast, Jack now produces all of that. So he records it, sets it up, edits it, color corrects it, does the audio. And now it's at a point where I almost don't even need to look at it before it goes live. And then Tilly would make all the social media promo for it. And to begin with, that was really hard, because that's even more my baby, because that's just a passion project. That's client work. But I think Jack joined me as an intern, so I probably have really shaped his skill set in a way that really works. Whereas I've had more senior videographers come in and consultants, and they're probably harder to work with because they come with their own opinions and their own kit. Yeah. And it's subjective, and quite often it's harder to say, actually, I really don't like what you've done when they're a senior creative. Whereas with an intern or someone more junior, they're just happy to be guided and have the feedback. They
want the learning experience, right? Because every day's a learning day, right? Because you love learning. We all love learning. You're never going to stop learning. And talking about learning, you said you went and did some really cool stuff.
Did I?
In some cool places. So you've been to Kenya, America, Ethiopia, did you say as well?
Yeah.
So why did you go to these places?
For different reasons. So going right back, I didn't go to university. I've been working alongside school and things. I was always a waitress or a barmaid and things. And then when I was 18, I didn't go to university and I did an apprenticeship in marketing. And all of my friends had gone to university at the time. And I remember feeling quite isolated because I was 18 working with like 30-year-olds. Now I'm 33, I realised how young they were. But at the time, I remember feeling like, oh my God, this is really isolating. And so after about a year and a half or a year, whenever it was that I finished my apprenticeship, I volunteered overseas. So I went to Ethiopia and taught English, and also I taught Braille, which sounds more complex.
Wow.
But I can see, so I could obviously see what the letters were. And I taught a blind child. It's actually the most amazing child. She's called Lantu. She's like one of my biggest inspirations. She sadly died, but she was like 6 years old. She was blind, disabled, and she spoke Amharic, which is the professional language of Ethiopia, English, which I was teaching her in, Sidaminya, which is her tribal language, and I was teaching her Braille in English. Like, she was super intelligent. Yeah. And because, unfortunately, in Ethiopia or in Hawassa, the area that I was in, they believed that if you were disabled, you were like cursed. She'd been hidden in like the dark for years, which is why she never developed sight. And she couldn't walk and things. Like, it was so heartbreaking, but she was so intelligent. Yeah. And I just thought, wow, imagine overcoming all of those things and being that intelligent. And actually, the orphanage I worked at has now set up a separate home called Lantu's Home, and it's for disabled children.
Oh, lush.
In her honour.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, doing things like that just really opened my mind to the world and inspired me to feel like, wow, this whole big world out there. So I came back and got a job in the travel industry. And I got that job because I'd been to Ethiopia. Abercrombie & Kent is a safari. Well, they do travel all over the world, but they started as a safari company.
Right, okay.
So I was selling luxury safaris. And the second time I went to Africa, I went to Kenya on probably one of the most luxe trips I've ever been on. And I stayed in Brad and Angelina Jolie's honeymoon suite.
Wow.
I had a butler, I had a private plane. And I was like, this is quite stark difference from when I went to Ethiopia. Yeah. I slept on a mattress and didn't have a toilet. So yeah, I had like quite polarizing travel, and I've always loved travel, to be honest. And through the job I did, they sent me to India because I did some fundraising for a health centre. So we went out to see it. And also America was just a fam trip where you just go and take videos and stuff for the content. And then I just travel myself. So I've been to like the Caribbean, I've been to Asia, Australia. My sister lives there. I just enjoy travel.
Well travelled.
Yeah, I love
seen travel. A lot of the world. How many countries have you been to?
No idea.
You're not counted?
No.
Oh, I'm trying to keep a count. I'm trying to do 30 countries before I'm 30.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to happen, but hey. So do you think that any of those experiences have, well, all of them have helped you in business, right? But do you think there's any key takeaways that helped you become a better leader, or you look back on that you now think, yeah, that shaped me to who I am today?
I think without kind of being too self-celebratory.
No, be self-celebratory. You've got it. You've got to be your own biggest fan.
Something I recognise in myself only recently is how independent and resilient I am. And that's come from, I grew up with a single mum and 2 sisters. I didn't really have any discipline growing up. And everything I've done has been self-taught. So I taught myself podcasting, videography, business, marketing. Obviously I did an apprenticeship at 18, but that was it. Just launched my own company. Obviously I've travelled to some quite far-flung places. I think I now recognise that I'm not really scared of anything. And
Good.
I think that's one of the reasons that I do cybersecurity, because things like quantum terrify people. When you see all the creatives
Sounds scary.
scurry out the door because they think, what on earth's that? Whereas when I see something scary or challenging, I run towards it. So that's why I enjoy doing marketing for the most complicated things you can imagine, because it's interesting, it's challenging. And I think, it was probably 2 years ago now, I was invited by Cyber North to give a talk to a group of quantum physicists on how to communicate quantum. And I still giggle about it, because I think I remember walking in and thinking, I'm telling quantum physicists how to communicate quantum. And realistically, it wasn't about the topic, it was about communication. But, for someone who hasn't even gone to uni, it's kind of, you have those moments where I'm like, I think one of my biggest skill sets is probably just that I just do stuff.
You're a doer.
I'm a doer. I'm just like, if it goes wrong, I don't really care. I have a big risk appetite.
Somebody, I did a marketing workshop the other day, and they said that there is no failure, there's only learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's nothing to be afraid of, because as long as you learn from it, you're in a good place, right? So you do a lot of talks, you do a lot of talking, right? You're quite the talker. What? So go through that. So you do a lot of keynote speaking. You're a bit of an SME, aren't you, really?
What do you mean by that?
Do you not know what an SME is?
Small, medium enterprise.
No. Well, you are a small, medium enterprise, but you're a subject matter expert.
Well, that would be SMA, wouldn't it? Oh, no, wait, you're right.
Edit that bit out, maybe. I don't know.
Keep it.
So you are a subject matter expert in a lot of things, I would say. So you're going around doing a lot of talks, which is something that I want to start doing. That's where I kind of want to pivot my business. I don't just want to be an in-person personal trainer charging X amount for X amount of hours. I want to be corporate fitness, corporate wellness, going and doing keynote speaking, stuff like that. So it's interesting to me. And obviously you host a pretty good podcast, I would say.
I host the Cyber Made Human podcast. Link, please.
Link. What's your key takeaway from all of that? You're doing a lot of the talking.
I would say it started because the Cheltenham business ecosystem is amazing, and the Cheltenham cybersecurity ecosystem is even better. And there's been loads of events. Like, I can't even count how many events I've been to, and people would start saying to me, oh, you should give a talk. And I used to be a really nervous public speaker. And I remember probably 3 years ago, maybe longer now, I was invited to give a talk. Oh, hi.
That's Jane's Pantry. Shout out. Love the sausage rolls.
Oh, get a pasty. I can't remember what I was saying. Jane has interrupted my thoughts.
Jane has interrupted you.
Oh, yeah, I was invited to give some talks. And I was
scared of public
really
speaking?
nervous, and I thought, do you know what, just do it. And I got better and better. And I think my first talks probably were not very good. And that's, again, part of it. And also, I've since then been invited to give talks at like London Olympia, at UK Cyber Week.
Wow.
I've talked at the podcast show in London, at the Business Design Centre. I've talked at Tech UK, I think it is, in Bristol. I'm obviously on loads of podcasts now, and I think it just comes with practice. But also, I'd say I don't really care about what people think of me, which sounds a little bit wild, but it's true. So I get trolls a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things on YouTube where people say, she doesn't know what she's talking about, she looks like this. Sometimes they tell me I look hot, which I appreciate. But quite often they're quite kind of misogynistic comments on like TikTok and YouTube. And me and my team laugh about them. And even me and my clients laugh about them. Because sometimes I like reply something really hilarious. And I don't know where that comes from, but I almost just don't need that kind of approval.
Yeah.
So it means that not being the best public speaker doesn't scare me, because, it's like you said, either you get it, you learn from it, or you get it right, basically.
Yeah. And do you know what? Something that I always used to say, and I was always a very shy child, which is quite funny because I'm now very out there. I was the introvert who I used to sit, and I actually said this to people before. I sat in the computer room at school at lunchtime and break time because, we'd go and play Minecraft on the computers or something. Like me and my mates would be sat there planning a YouTube series. Like that was our thing. I was not an out there person.
Wow.
Whereas now I can't stop talking.
Yeah.
But I don't care about people's opinions of me. The perspective, the perception, not perspective, perception of me is important. I don't want people to think I'm an arrogant asshole.
No.
But if their opinion of me is that, for some reason, just because they don't like me, I don't really care. It doesn't matter.
I think it's more about criticism. I think obviously I want to be a good person. I want people to feel good. But I think I don't like every single person that I meet, and I don't respect every single person that I meet. And so it's unrealistic to think that everybody who sees me is going to like me. Yeah. So if someone just dislikes me because I'm a woman, or because my voice is annoying, or because I'm doing something that they don't think is good enough, that's not my problem. Whereas if it's that I've hurt somebody or done something that I shouldn't have, obviously I care about that. Yeah. But it's more about not letting people who are maybe just negative get you down and stop you from doing stuff. Yeah, and people form opinions so quickly, and normally they're not founded in anything. I mean, TikTok is a cesspit for it, really, isn't it? It's absolutely a cesspit for people just being not very nice. And they found these opinions, and they form these opinions on people without knowing anything about them. Whereas, like I say, people's perception of me is very important to me, I think, because I want people to think that, I'm a nice person and that I'm bubbly and outgoing and I'm approachable, because that's my business. If people weren't comfortable with me, then I'd be in a pretty dire straits. And going off of the pivoting from the troll idea, obviously you are a female in business, you're a woman in business. Do you think that you've set yourself as a good example for other people other women in business as well? Obviously, it's hard being a woman in business. I can't talk on it because I'm not a woman. But do you want to elaborate a little bit on being a woman in business? I would say the difference is that a lot of people don't they do now. I think I'm 33 now. When I launched my business, I was 27. And I now can't believe how young that was. But I was a director with a team by the time I was 26, I think. I can't believe how quickly, but I think it's because I didn't go to uni. Yeah. But when I was 27, I think people saw me as a bit fluffy. And one of the difficulties was, if you see a man with a camera or some lighting or a podcast mic, they're seen as really technical. And it's like, oh, we should take this really seriously. This is really complicated. Whereas when I would turn up with a camera or a microphone, it was like, oh, bless her, she's taking some Instagram shots. And actually, we could probably do this ourselves. And I think that's really frustrating that something can be seen as technical if a man does it. The identical thing is seen as fluffy if a woman does it. And I actually leaned into it because I think early on, I probably quite enjoyed trolling the trolls. And early on, I did have some men say to me, you're a bit too feminine and you're a bit too this and a bit too that. And I think, maybe you shouldn't call your business AliceVioletCreative because I don't think people will hire you. So then I was like, I'm going to... Joke's on you. Joke's on you. So then I worked with Ken, our graphic designer, to have the purple branding, and we really leaned into the fact I'm a woman. Yeah. And actually, I think also it kind of stops people who think like that ultimately wouldn't hire me anyway. And I don't necessarily want to work with them. There are some incredible men in the industry, and cybersecurity is quite a agile, entrepreneurial, emerging industry. And so there is space for it to be shaped by a different kind of type of person. It's not a really archaic industry. Like even luxury travel was very traditional. Even getting them onto Instagram back in the day was a struggle because they love a printed brochure and things. Yeah. I don't think cybersecurity, although very male dominated, has the same prejudices that other industries have. Still a male dominated, but not. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Male dominated still, but because we are, so in cadets, in the Army cadets, we're trying to push cybersecurity to a lot of our young people. We're trying to get a lot of more people into STEM. It would seem maybe we've lost a little bit of that, I don't know, but we're trying to get people into cybersecurity. We're doing cybersecurity courses for 13-year-olds because we know how important it's going to be. And cybersecurity, I guess, like you say, it's a massively growing business. 5 years ago, it was a bit, meh, what's that? Now it's like everybody wants to work in cyber. What is cyber? How can I get involved? You can direct entry into the armed forces now as a cybersecurity analyst. You don't even have to go through phase 1 training, I don't think, because they want cybersecurity people so much. So, so you started Cyber Made Human
to make it human, right? Because when I think of cybersecurity, I think of ethical hackers and people. I have a lot of clients who work for certain companies, and I kind of think, oh yeah, that's, oh great, cool, cybersecurity, MI6, SIS, and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I'm quite naive to what cybersecurity is and what cyber means. You've got all the AI stuff, quantum stuff. So you started Cyber Made Human to do exactly that?
Yeah.
Make it human?
Make it human. So one of the sayings is that humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. So we kind of use that as the name of Cyber Made Human. But also I think cybersecurity can often be seen as abstract, and they love a neon padlock hovering over a laptop as their iconography. And actually there's a lot more to it, and it is real world, much more kind of, relatable than I think it's often presented as. So it was just taking that, and also some of the most incredible people. So the first person I ever had on actually was James Linton, who's an ethical hacker. He fished the White House, and also Harvey Weinstein, and did a lot of stuff back in the day, and then has now become an educator of penetration testing for companies. But, we've had hackers on, and we've had obviously people who used to work for GCHQ on. So we have done a lot of the intelligence stuff, but also we've had Joe Cox on to talk about quantum, Paul Duckley, one of my faves, to talk about quantum. We also talked about AI and the ethics of AI around using ChatGPT as a therapist. What's happening with that data? Ultimately, it's going to be used for advertising. They're doing it to make money.
That's becoming a big sorry to interrupt you. That's becoming a big thing now, isn't it? AI optimization and instead of SEO. We were talking about this earlier, me and Jack, that it's becoming a thing of now people are using search engines. Sorry to pivot from the Submade Human thing, but people are using AI and ChatGPT and large language models to do Google stuff. They're not going on Google anymore. They're going on ChatGPT and saying, hey, recommend me a personal trainer in Cheltenham. Or, hey, I want a digital marketer. Can you recommend me somebody? That's what people are doing. And they're putting all this data in. And I guess we kind of don't know where it goes.
Well, I think it's kind of like Facebook back in the day. Facebook used to, collect all this data, and then ultimately the things that you were engaging with, like it might show you a post which is about, I don't know, immigrants, and see how you react to it. And if it thinks that you're right wing, it would then start presenting you with right wing content. And then the adverts that it presents to you might be a little bit more right wing, or vice versa. And I think, we saw the danger of that in terms of it swaying elections. If we saw the Cambridge Analytica scandal, I've just read a book called Careless People, the place I used to work, by, I can't remember her name now. But really good book. I recommend it. And essentially ChatGPT is probably going to go through the same wave of, taking all this data. I mean, people upload screenshots to it, pictures of themselves to it, loads of personal information. You are basically giving that to a tech company. In the geopolitical landscape that we operate in, if you think that they're not going to use that, very naive.
Bit naive. Yeah, look, jinx. So, so you've had a lot of people on Cyber Made Human, a lot of interesting people. How long has it been going for?
I can't remember now, maybe 2.5 years.
Fine. And what is your, so I want to, when this podcast finally goes live,
go live.
I would like to think that, and I was actually talking to somebody about how, what success looks like from a podcast perspective, because the Flex Appeal podcast is a very different, it's still me. But it's not my main brand. I just kind of want to do it as a passion project, right? I like talking to people. I've always wanted to have a podcast. I've always wanted to be famous on Instagram, man. Do you know what I mean? Every kid has that dream of being a YouTuber. Well, at least I did.
I didn't.
I did. I wanted to be a YouTuber. So I would like to think that every episode I've had very interesting people on who do a lot of interesting stuff, especially you. But who do a lot of interesting stuff and have a lot of interesting perspectives. So you've spoken to 2.5 years worth of content of people.
Yeah.
Do you try to always take a takeaway from them? And, do you feel like you are, because you are constantly learning, like you've said, you love learning, you're always learning.
Yeah.
So is that a big part for you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say?
One of my favorite things about the podcast is there's people in it, even us two. I know you because Jess is one of my best friends and she's your girlfriend.
She's pretty cool as well.
We've never talked about business with each other.
Yeah.
I probably haven't even talked to Jess about it. And I think that when I sit down with my Cyber Made Human guests, they're often people that are either my clients, they're in the ecosystem, they've done some great work, or they might even be friends or part of the team. And we sit down and I learn so much about them and what they're working on, and we wouldn't have had those conversations. So I think it gives you a really interesting reason to ask people about their lives and what motivates them and how they got where they were, and also talking about, you know, the biggest things happening in cyber and their kind of influences within that. Like Mark Adams used to live and work in Silicon Valley and sold a company to Lyft, I think it was. There's a lot of people that have done whole things that I didn't realize, so that's really interesting. Can't remember the question.
It was a bit of a weird question, to be honest with you. I was just saying, you know, are you always trying to learn from your guests and stuff like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think I do try and learn from my guests.
The only
other thing I was going to say,
which
is where my brain was going, which is why I didn't take in the question, was when you say, you know, you wanted to, what does success look like for a podcast and that you want to do more public speaking? I would say a lot of the talks that I've been invited to give are as the host of Cyber Made Human, not as the founder of Alice Violet Creative. So it does give you a lot more PR opportunities because you're not going to sell anything. And obviously you use it as an opportunity to talk about the fact you own a gym. But the podcast show, for example, I was there as a podcaster. UK Cyber Week, I was there as a podcaster. So, and I'm invited on podcasts often as Cyber Made Human, not Alice Violet Creative. So I think it's given me a huge amount of PR and exposure. And in terms of success for us, I mean, we aren't a company that needs 1,000 clients. We're a company that needs a small number of long-term partnerships and ad hoc videography and photography. And so success for me isn't being a trending podcast. It's about getting a meaty retainer that might be worth £20,000 or £100,000 a year. So these are much kind of longer sales journeys, and they're built on trust and personality. And that's why long form content of me immersed in the industry, showing I understand the business model, I understand the challenges, is valuable. It's not about them jumping on my website and booking a £1,000 photo shoot. It's about the long term. Alice knows what she's talking about, trust building.
It's brand awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
They know you as a person. They know that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I learned this in a marketing workshop, that people hate being sold to. They don't like... what I don't want to do from this is go, oh, now you should start PTing with me, or you should look at online coaching with me, because that is not the idea of what I'm doing. I want to understand what your struggles were with business and what you enjoy about business and what your thing is, because I want one person in the entire world to take away from that and go, oh, wow, I want to be like you, you know? That's what I want. I want people to come on, and really interesting people who have an interesting backstory. And that's why it's a fitness and a business podcast, because that's what I'm interested in. Yeah. Probably two very different things, but they do kind of merge together for a lot of people. Christmas special was Ethan, and he's been a business person for 6 or 7 years, and a good friend of mine for 17 years now. So that was interesting. But I did have another thing. Yes, I do. It's there. It's in the brain. So business podcast. Yeah. What was your biggest struggle in this entire journey of, obviously you said you felt isolated when you didn't go to university. You've been working since you were 15 years old. You have
I was in school till I was 18, but yeah, I was working along.
You've got, obviously, and that was when you didn't have to stay in school till you were 18. I dropped out of sixth form about 6 months in.
Did you?
Yeah, I hated it. I just was not an educator. I was a straight A student, but I hated school.
Yeah, the rigidity.
Exactly that. Rigidity, I just couldn't do it. I started skiving in year 10 and 11. I was pretty A stars and A's, and that just didn't happen. But hey, we're here. We're where we are now. So yeah, you've obviously got a bloody strong work ethic if you've been working for X amount of years. You know. So what's your biggest struggle been in this entire process?
Ooh, as in business as a whole.
Business as a whole, being a business owner, not as a creative, not as just as a business owner.
Ooh, my biggest struggle so far.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
It probably is actually managing people.
Yeah.
So I think that I am passionate about mental health. I'm a Samaritan volunteer, and I care deeply about people.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to compartmentalize and just be a boss. You know, I tend to have really good relationships with people that I work with in my team and also my clients. And I think having to sometimes be the big bad wolf is really hard.
Yeah.
And also not to give too much of myself is really hard, because ultimately I do only have so many hours in the day. And even being a Samaritan's volunteer is an example of me being a workaholic, because like over Christmas I had a week off, and I think I did Christmas Day, Boxing Day and the Sunday before at Samaritans. That's not a week off to most people. I think I enjoy being really busy, and I'm happiest when I'm busy. But I think people are very complex, and I've had terrible managers and really good managers. And I don't think I've quite found the middle ground now, where I'm not like so immersed that it takes from my own time, but not so hands off that they're like, where's my boss? So I think that's really challenging. It's just getting that balance of like, as much as I'm a workaholic in terms of I like sitting down on my laptop under a blanket with my cat doing work, actually the social battery of being on and answering stuff all the time is really hard. Yeah,
and that's I think a big thing that worries a lot of people when they go into management is, how do I manage people?
Yeah.
I've just taken on what would be a management role within cadets, and trying to manage people who are old enough to be older than my parents, in fact.
Yeah.
And I'm managing these people, and I'm, responsible for them and 30 kids.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, because you don't know how do you navigate? You don't want to be best friends with people, because if you're best friends with your member of staff, when it comes to, you've just ruined a client's reputation.
They would never.
No, they wouldn't. No, you're right. But if they always say not to go into business with your friends. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, and I wouldn't.
Because imagine, that just.
I mean, I'm also a control freak, I think. So the amount of people that said to me, are you going to get investment? Are you going to have a co-founder? And there's a lot of companies in Cheltenham, no shade, but they are successful because they have a wife. And so they will run around with a camera or whatever, but actually their wife does the invoicing, the admin, the marketing, goes to all the networking events, and they just rock up with a camera when they've made the deal. And I often say, I wish I had a wife, because I don't have anybody to do any of that for me.
It's totally on your own.
It's totally different. And however, I'm a control freak, and would I want to share it? Probably not. And one of the reasons I haven't sought investment is because I don't want someone telling me what to do. So it's really hard. You don't want to give up that creative control. No.
Yeah, and have someone say, well, I'll give you this much, but you got to do this, isn't this?
Yeah, and we need to have made this much by December.
Yeah.
Because that's like pressure.
But you do, like you say, even when you were self-employed on your own, you do review your business all the time.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I think a lot of people don't do that. I have KPIs that I look at every Friday, and I've only started doing that recently in the last 6 months. But I know a lot of, at least PTs and fitness industry people, who don't review their business, and they have no idea where their revenue is coming from, where their money is going, what their profit margin is, nothing like that. And I've started really looking at that ever since I opened the gym, because obviously I need to. I
mean, I would say I'm not great at that side of it, to be honest, but I think the side that I am good at is in terms of like strategy and goal setting. So like I often break things down into 90 days or 3 months. And I look at, right, so in the next 3 months, I need to have onboarded this client. We need to have done this. The website needs to be here. The team needs to be here. I need to have done this. And then I review it every 90 days and say, did I achieve it? Did I not? I think now that I'm so much busier, in the past, I used to just be flattered to be invited onto anything and everything. Whereas now I'm like, realistically, I can't be on every stage there is, because
so we're special. I get it.
Because that's time that I can't be doing other stuff. And also now my team can go out and do stuff. Jack's on an Ask the Experts panel, but I don't know if this at this point. But yeah, I think 90 days basically to check in, see what's working, see what's not. You do constantly learn. And I make a joke that running a business is like being on a roller coaster. Literally 1 minute you're like, wow, I've got this. This is amazing. And then the next day you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? And I think that's just, you've got to kind of buckle in. And when things are going well, you've got to not get carried away and buy a BMW. And when things are going badly, you've not got to get carried away and throw the towel in. You've just got to ride the storm.
Yeah, no, that is a really good piece of advice. Just ride the storm. Have you got any advice for people who want to start business, actually?
Ooh.
Going from there.
I would say learn marketing. I'm really lucky that I'm a marketer, because I think marketing's the most important part of a business. And if you don't understand what problem you're solving, who you're talking to, who your competitors are, how you're positioning yourself, what makes you different, how to communicate, all of that stuff is essential. And, I work with a lot of tech and cyber companies who have some incredible piece of technology that they've built, but they don't know what on earth to do, who to communicate it to, who it even is for. So I think, do some marketing fundamentals training, I think would be my biggest piece of advice.
And just going back to the whole cyber thing, what do you market in cyber?
Well, there's a huge plethora of things. So it could be a service. So it could be that somebody is offering resilience as a service. So you can have their team looking after your company and looking at your digital infrastructure and literally making sure that it's safe and looking for threats and making sure it's updated. Or it could be sales as a service, so SaaS, and that could be just a piece of software like Sophos, which lives on your computer as an antivirus, or it could be some super secure file sharing software. There's so many different parts of it. It could be training. So we're selling the different solutions essentially.
Right. Okay, cool. Because that was actually something I was genuinely interested in. It's like, I'm thinking that you were trying to do marketing for, GCHQ. And I'm like, well, what do they market? You know?
No,
but yeah. So that's, and because I guess I'm not in the cybersecurity industry, I just don't know what people are looking for, you know? So,
yeah.
But it's a massive industry in Cheltenham, isn't it?
It is.
Is it getting big everywhere?
Well, I think it's always been big. I think cybersecurity is critical national infrastructure. So it's security of everything. And it's always been there. It's just now, I think with the Harrods hack last year, Jaguar Land Rover, it's becoming conscious to the public now. The need for cybersecurity has always been there. I think also with the shift in geopolitics, with kind of allies changing and things, we may have relied on the USA for funding and skill set that we now can't. And just guessing, but that might be shifting. And so I think, it's just more people are aware of the consequences. If we didn't secure Thames water, for example, and our water got poisoned, the impact of that's huge. Yeah. If one of the satellites in the sky was damaged and we didn't have GPS, that's huge. And so I think understanding that basically every touch point that we have in our lives, if that's not secure, there is a consequence. Cybersecurity isn't some random thing on the side. It's part of everything that we do.
It's so
it's just
important.
Everything. And so, I think understanding that and it being part of public consciousness is positive. And I think we'll almost go through, like with social media and AI, ice cream vans here. I think we'll almost go through with social media and AI, where it initially became something that people did and then it just becomes part of life. It's just everything. It's not even conscious anymore. People
are literally just asking Siri or Hey Gemini and all that kind of stuff, and they don't even realise that they're doing it nowadays. Do you want to know a fun fact about a hack, actually, about cybersecurity?
Yeah, go.
Did you ever watch the movie The Interview with Seth Rogen and James, that guy? You know, the guy James. So the story was the interview goes to North Korea. They try and poison.
Oh, do you mean what's he called? Sacha Baron Cohen?
No. That's Borat. That's Borat. That's not even nearly the same.
He did The Dictator. That's what I thought.
So the interview, basically, they made a total mockery of North Korea, and then North Korea basically on Christmas Day hacked Sony, so nobody could get onto PlayStation Network. So that was my first experience of cybersecurity, I guess, and that was in like 2012 or something. So I think that's all the questions I've got for you. I think that was a very enlightening experience.
Good.
Have you got anything you would like to add?
I don't think so.
I always forget what we first started talking about, you know, so
no idea.
Memory like a sieve. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
you for
me.
coming on.
I look forward to watching your podcast when it goes live.
Because it will absolutely go live. It will go live. So thank you everybody for watching.